welcome to Mama Says. I'm your host, Amber Autry. And whether you're a first time listener or a repeat listener, thank you for being here. It means a lot. This week, I talked to Amy Meadows and her mom, Sarah. These women are amazing. They've traveled all over and have so many wonderful stories to tell. Both Amy and Sarah are pastors' daughters, so we talk about the stereotypes surrounding that role, but how they chose to be their own person regardless of expectations. We get a little into Sarah's involvement with the Secret Service, which I feel that topic may deserve a second episode. And we discuss Fathers and Families, a program that Sarah started to help people she felt called to, a program that's still running today. Amy and Sarah are amazing. They will inspire, entertain, and delight you. So get cozy and enjoy this episode of Mama Says.
Well, if you wanted to know anything about motherhood, you just observed it.
All right, yeah. How about adult children of even more adulter parents?
Hi,
So,
how are
Oh,
Mom, I'd like to introduce you to Amber Autry. This is her series. And as I was telling you a little bit about last night, I met Amber standing in like the world's longest, most boring line for an open mic at the Laugh Factory, where those of us with estrogen have to work twice as hard to get past the bros up to the mics. My God. One time, Audrey, I had to have Chris Davis step in for me because these three guys just went like, whoom. And I'm like, excuse me. They're like, are you here to pick up tickets? I'm like, no.
What?
Oh, it's just like, oh, you've got it. Whatever. So
Right.
yeah, no, but Mom, Audrey's a dancer. Audrey is a dancer.
Oh,
So
Amber.
Amber's a dancer. And so we were able to connect over that. And then Amber, aren't you also from like Kentucky or Tennessee?
From Tennessee. Are you guys from the South?
Yeah, we're all from Tennessee.
Oh, so wait, sorry, I didn't get your name, Mama. What's your name?
Oh,
Sarah,
Sarah.
S-A-R-A-H.
Where are you guys from in Tennessee?
I was born in Chattanooga.
West Tennessee mostly.
Mom, we take your hands away from your mouth.
Hey, listen, I've had a crazy morning. I've been involved with a scam. My son says it's a scam to cut off my electricity in 30 minutes.
A scam?
Yeah, they call you and say,
And-
we're gonna cut off your electricity in 30 minutes unless you give us your credit card number to catch up on payments.
Oh,
That
no.
and the one where she got the call saying, then there was the one where she called me and she goes, Amy, do you know where Griffin is? My son, my college age son. And I said, yes. She goes, is he in jail in Ohio? I'm like, no, he's in.
Oh, that was ages ago.
Yeah, but they keep coming and Tom's parents keep getting those calls too, but Mom knows it. Mom knows now. Now she's got the trick.
They tried to
When
get your credit information because they said your grandson is in jail?
Yes.
Yeah, to hire an attorney.
That's terrible.
Well, and they really tug on it's really manipulative too, because they put the kid on the phone. And then they say, Bubba, I know I don't sound like myself because my nose broke in the car accident, but the pregnant woman who was injured, she's in even worse shape. And it just goes
I
on.
always say, what is your sister's name? And then they hang up.
Yeah.
Wow. You think that some people would just like decide to learn a trade or get a job instead of doing and saying things like that. That's
Not when you can suck us, not when the world is full of, and again, you're preying on a grandparent's worst fears.
yes.
And they also say, don't tell my parents, whatever you do, don't call mom or don't call dad and ask them.
Wow.
So then mom's calling me and she's like, I'm not supposed to talk to you. This is super confidential. Do I need to come drive down there and we go to Ohio? I'm like, okay, no.
You're like, wait, what?
What?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So Sarah,
So
you said
as a mother, you think, have I taught you nothing? So,
Sarah, you said that you are from West Tennessee mostly?
Around Jackson.
Oh, my sister lives in Huntington, Tennessee, Clarksburg. It's a small town.
Yeah.
I'm in Clarksville and
Clarksville.
Franklin, outside of Nashville. And
Well, I tell people that I lived in West Tennessee long enough to say pencil and Memphis.
Yes. Did you like being there? What made you move to Chattanooga, where Amy was born?
No,
no, you didn't like living there. I think they moved to Chattanooga. Okay, so here's another thing that mom and I both have in common. We're ministers' daughters.
Oh.
Oh. And
who is the historian at Vanderbilt?
John Meacham.
John who?
Meacham?
Yeah, he was your classmate in kindergarten.
Wish I kept in touch with him. It would be nice to have a buddy with a Pulitzer Prize, but yeah.
Okay, now this says, the host has asked you to start your video. And then it says, okay, or later.
You don't have to worry. That's probably just left over because we can see your video. You don't have to touch anything.
Okay.
Okay.
What was it like for both of you, what was it like being a minister's daughter?
I didn't like it. We lived in what was called parsonages, and it was some old house with old furniture in it, and that was where you were to live while you were the preacher at that parsonage.
Right.
Yeah, so I didn't like
moved all
being
over.
a preacher's daughter.
You moved around a lot.
A lot.
Really? So it was like, is that because he was what would you call it, a missionary, or did he have his own church, or what made you move around so much?
He had his own church, but I think there was some inappropriate behavior.
She's talking about her father versus my father.
That's
right.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we moved so much, I think.
Oh, wow.
We think there was some hanky-panky at the revival tent.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
no. and everything was going along just great when mom married a Methodist minister whom she met in college, and everything was fine because Sarah had done the right thing. And, all that, until then, my father said goodbye to the Methodist faith and went over into the Episcopal church so he and mom could make their stake as social justice warriors. And that didn't go over too well.
Is it Episcopal and Methodist like really far apart? Is that?
Episcopalians are more liturgical than the Methodists.
A lot of places think of Episcopalians as Catholic light.
Ah, okay, gotcha. So what was Sarah? Amy mentioned a social justice warrior. What was that about? What made you make the switch to Episcopalian?
I think my husband thought it was more sophisticated,
Mm.
and he liked the pomp and circumstance of everything.
Did you
And
always
he's
think,
from Tennessee too.
oh, nice. Okay. From the Chattanooga?
No,
Where
the
was
other end,
Oh,
Clark's.
Clarksville.
And he was the first person in his family to go to college. He got a full ride to Vanderbilt, but didn't have money to get there. So he had to hitchhike
What?
to start school there.
Wow. You come from a line of amazing people, Amy.
I do. And what the hell have I done? But yeah.
No, everything. You're so amazing.
Listen,
But
how much time do you have? I can talk about having a Secret Service record. You interested in that?
I am interested in that.
there's a lot. Like I was told in high school, do not tell your friends that your father is working with the ACLU to force desegregation. There was a
What?
bomb scare at school. Then there was the time that mom dropped me off at my aunt and uncle's house in Nashville. She didn't say where she was going. It ended up she was going to Washington, D.C. to storm the White House
What?
to get Nixon to stop the war, and someone claiming to be his secretary, or someone from the office came and said, oh, well, we want to send you a thank you note, Sarah. Could you give us your address and phone number? And she said, no, you don't need that. Anyone who knows how to find me can find me. I come from a long line of hard ass women.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's when I was looking through the questions and thinking, well, what's one thing you share? It's like, we don't suffer fools gladly. We just don't. And I learned from mom very early, just don't put up with that.
Yeah.
Just don't, especially because turn that phone off, mom.
1 4 6 3 2 3 4 3 1 2 8.
I don't even know who that is.
No one you need. It's no one on our podcast. But just as I think so much there's so much patriarchy in religion, and the preacher, the man, and it was always a man,
Right.
Whether you're there to hear the word of God or whether you're there because of the cult of personality, that's the person. Mom, the wives played piano, taught church school, hosted the dinners, attended did the flowers for the funerals, did all of that. But they never got any real recognition for that. And as mom said, you live in a house that's not your own.
Yeah.
And I, when I was growing up, we moved from Franklin, Tennessee up to Louisville, Kentucky, and then now to Indianapolis, where mom is now. And the joke was she just kept inching up I-65 until she realized there wasn't that much left. But it's difficult. And then because you're a minister's daughter, people make certain assumptions about you. You're either a goody two shoes or you're crazy wild.
Yeah. Right.
And maybe a little bit of both.
Like maybe both's true. Okay.
Yeah. So there were some things I'm sure mom and I were able to get away with in our respective childhoods that others could not, because they could just go like, preacher's daughter.
Right.
But others, you absolutely could not. You just could not be seen doing that, or how you dressed, or different things like that. Would you agree, Mom?
Yes.
Sounds like a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Sarah, did you always envision living a life where you were involved with the Secret Service?
No. But I tell you, I have had a really fascinating life. I have traveled almost all over the world because of a program in social work where we were exchanging jobs in homes. And so people from other countries would come and live in my house with me and go to my job with me. And one time I had this woman from Africa, and I said, well, you'll be leaving soon. What are you going to take back with you from your stay in the United States? And she said, 4 garden hoses. And I said, garden hose? She said, it will change the life of women in my village.
Oh,
And she took her garden hoses.
wow.
It was fascinating.
That's so cool. Do you miss those kind of experiences? Or do you still get to do those kind of things now?
No, I'm 87, almost 87. So I don't do that kind of traveling now, but I kept doing it as long as I could. I really
Still in
love
touch.
doing it. And I always took one of my children with me
Oh,
to
wow.
Turkey and Africa.
Did you travel by
all over.
yourself or did your husband go with you?
I was divorced at that time.
Wow, that's so cool. So you were going on your own.
Mm-hmm.
With one child.
That's amazing. What were some of the challenges of taking a child across seas?
It made me feel safe because they would take care of me and I would take care of them. So together we got through those places. There were some fascinating stories that we told.
What's one of them?
And now I think how I got the nerve up to do those things. And I think, I don't know how I ever got brave enough to do that. And it was because I had my child with me. And I thought they would take care of me.
Oh.
I think she was prepared to sacrifice us at the altar of God in case something went wrong. It's like, here, you go to jail. They're good to juveniles. Okay. But no, she was, Mom has a long tradition of just like saying, again, no, I'm not going to wait in this line, or here, you wait here. I bet there's a faster way in, or I bet if I talk to the right person. And that was how my brother ended up seeing the Pope. And that's how we ended up like being first into the King Tut exhibit and all this and all these other things. Because, another thing was money was always really, really tight, really tight.
I will tell you an interesting story. We were very poor growing up, and any artwork we had was pictures out of magazines. And so there was a picture of Madame Shanghai, and she had her mandarin collar and her sleek hair and her eyes. And I remember thinking, life is bigger than just this little town with one traffic light in it. And I always was fascinated by what was out there. And my sister, I've talked to her about this. She doesn't even remember that picture of Madame Shanghai.
Wow.
So, and I have worked with young Black men in a program I started who had criminal records, drug stuff, things like that. And I got them to, I got them to come to their GED classes. And I was the GED teacher. And I got to know them and they got to know me. And it was something that changed my life.
And the lives of those young men. I think she estimated
Yes.
she made possible about 800 GEDs. And this was a program that Mom created that actually at one time Al Gore said was so well thought through and so successful that it should be a template for programs nationally. But Indianapolis had an infant mortality rate, so bear with me here, an infant mortality rate of a third world country. And statistics show that when there are two parents, they don't have to be married, but when there are two parents, that rate drops significantly. And so this was job training, education, and parenting so that these young men could be a father to that child. Again, not about, all of that. One time we were in Indianapolis and going down through Broad Ripple, and we walked past a firehouse, and I think I stepped off the sidewalk or onto the whatever and we're walking across the street. And this guy came running out of the firehouse. He goes, "Stop right there. Don't you go another step." And I'm like, "Oh my God," because we were all together. And he goes, "Sarah Meadows, you changed my life. You saved my life." And he comes running up. He was one of Mom's graduates. Now he was, working in the firehouse, and he's hugging and, and of course we're just like, okay, yeah, now let's go get lunch. But, you can only deal with the life-changing praise so often. But
Wow.
But no, that's
Where did
that's
the
a
idea
big deal,
come
Mom.
from? This is amazing. What made you want to start this program, Sarah?
There was an article in Time or Newsweek, and it called these men throwaway men.
Wow.
And I was head of the social work department in the hospital, and I had to get arrangements made for women who had miscarried, things like that. So I had these two men there, and I said, "I need to talk with you about how we're going to manage the disposal." I don't want to say anymore. And so I took them outside, and it was dark, and they were dark, and they were very, very bright, responsible. And I thought, well, did I throw away men? And I was having a hard time at my job because of just a variety of things. I tended to get put on probation. So,
Uh-oh.
What was
well,
I saying
anyway,
about
I
tradition of today?
I was feeling like I was thrown away baggage myself. And so we just really were able to connect. It was an amazing experience for me. I'll never forget the men I worked with. They changed my life, and as a result, I changed their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I still am in contact with a lot of those men.
Really? Is that program still running?
Yes.
What's it called? Is this
Fathers and Families.
Fathers and Families? When did it start? What year did you start it?
I don't remember. It was, a while back.
Well, if you began it when
Well, I know it's been there for
Indianapolis, it would have
25
been
years.
1980s,
Wow.
late, yeah, the 80s.
That's the
when we
cool.
moved there.
So this drive that both of you have, does that come from your mom, Sarah? Or do you think it started with you, this drive to like try new things and help people?
No, it didn't come from my mother because she was a preacher's wife and he was very dominating. And she always did what she was supposed to do, when and how she was supposed to do it.
Mm.
And I remember one time my father was cutting his, this is gross, but he was cutting his toenails
Oh, Mom.
with a knife,
Oh,
and
no.
it fell on the newspaper. And my father said to me, Sarah, go get a broom and clean this mess up. And I said, you made the mess, you clean it up. And I don't know, I just thought that sounded reasonable.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Wow. So like how many siblings did you have?
Two, an older sister and a younger brother. And the younger brother died because of a fall.
Wow.
And the older sister is right at the point of death. But
Her younger
not,
brother, my uncle, was also a minister.
Wow. I guess, is that kind of encouraged to, marry a minister or be a minister when it's like passed down like that?
well, I remember thinking when I was studying at Vanderbilt that they had a lot of ministerial students, that I was dating one of them. But I thought to myself, but he's a Vanderbilt man. He'll be different from other students who were going into the priesthood. But it didn't make a difference. I'm thinking. So anyway, these are strange things I'm telling you.
Oh, really? But Amber, to your point, it's not necessarily like attorneys who train the sons to take over the father's business. But I do think in a lot of areas or cultures or societies, the continuation of the faith, that you've raised your family and that you're carrying on the work, all of that sort of stuff is an attribute,
Yeah.
is considered an asset. But it's complicated. It's really complicated. Yeah.
Definitely. So Amy, do you feel like you learned from your mom to, I mean, you mentioned this before, like, was it a big thing growing up to like not take any crap from men?
I think I got some of that from Mom. Yes, a lot of that. But I think I also was also driven by the fact that I was an only child for 6 years until my siblings came along. So that gave me a lot of leverage to be, I kind of a spoiled brat. For lack of it, it's kind of like, well, this is what I want. And again, it wasn't everything was so non-traditional that I wasn't held to the same rules as my classmates or my peers or all of that. It was just different. And then, mom and dad doing all the social justice stuff, and mom going into social work. And then we have behavior modification and all of this kind of, learning about therapy and your feelings and, all of that sort of stuff. That made for some pretty interesting parenting too, wouldn't you say, Mom?
Yes.
No, sorry. Sarah, did you go to school or did you just like study behavioral therapy and try to implement that with your parents?
No, I got 2 master's degrees. One was in education and one was in social work.
Wow. And that's where you got some of your parenting skills. That's
There
awesome.
was there was the one time that I finally got contacts. I was happy to get rid of glasses. I got contacts, and of course they say only wear them for a few hours the first day, but of course I was just so excited and I didn't believe them, and so I wore them as long as I could, and then went to bed, and then woke up in the middle of the night screaming because it felt like I had razor blades on the insides of my eyelids. And I'm like, Mom, I'm blind. I'm never gonna see again. And Mom, you remember this? You came running up and came running up to the bedroom, and you're rocking me and you're hugging me and you're saying, you're having a conversion reaction. You're going from being a girl who wears glasses to a girl who doesn't. And this is all emotional. And I'm like, no, I'm blind. I'm really going blind. And so that was a lot of that therapy
Right.
speak. But yeah.
I mean,
so.
that's a very funny story. And I am interested in that though, because I think that's a great idea to introduce kids to like feelings early, because I love my family, but a lot of my family didn't talk about feelings. And so, we just pressed it down, and it's just till now that we're able to be like, I feel sad or I feel mad, would have been way better a long time ago.
I think we were encouraged to be pretty open. We had at one time an approved list of angry words, which I won't share on the podcast. but you could say all kinds of things, but you could never say, I hate you. You could never say that. And we certainly spent plenty of time in timeouts with our nose in the corner to kind of, deal with that. But then a lot of times we'd have a conversation afterwards about, so why did you say that? And is there something you want to say to your brother or your sister or different things like that? So hostage negotiations.
But not just like punishing you, but addressing like, I know you felt this way. Why was it? Why did you feel this way?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really nice. Sarah, did you always want to be a mom?
I don't think I even thought about it. You were born, you went to school, you graduated from college, you got married, you had children. It was just what you did.
Mm-hmm.
But I was certainly not opposed to it. I just, followed the pattern. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
What were some
But I loved being a mother. I really did. We would get pots and pans and wooden spoons and go around the dining room table banging them. Saying, let's see, pop, 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 picking up posies, putting them in your pocket, picking up pos, putting them in your pocket. And that was a game we did.
Oh,
so
that's so
and when Dad was in seminary in New York, we were living in New York, and I would have been about 3 or 4. Mom was a substitute teacher, so I would go with her and I just sit in the back of the classrooms and be quiet. But I knew how to read by age 4 or 5 because I spent all that time in the classroom.
Wow.
But Mom, we went to museums. There's still one painting in the Museum of Modern Art that I have since found it again, but it changed the way I see things. Mom brought me to this painting, stood me right in front of it and said, okay, what colors do you see? And I said, black. She she goes, oh, no, no, no. You need to look closely. There are all of these shades of black are different. That's a purple black. That's a, all that kind of stuff is a painting by Ad Reinhardt. And it still hangs there. It still hangs there. I went and to try and track it down, and I went up and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's still like right at the top of that. They probably moved it in the past couple of years when they've redone everything. But it was a pivotal moment. It was a pivotal moment in how you see things, how you can perceive one thing that is not actually the other. And living in New York then was so cool. Pottery Barn was literally a pottery barn that, just started there. I think, Mom, that's where you started your love affair with Danish modern furniture that she still has and collects. And when Daddy Walker would come and he's like, what's this picnic table? What are these chairs that look like chicken bones in the back? And, it was crazy. I mean, imagine putting that in a parsonage in Tennessee. That was when you come back there like, what? So,
It's like that. You both are so amazing and brilliant, and just, I'm so grateful to be speaking to both of you. I want to say that first off. Amy, are those kinds of experiences what encouraged you to be a teacher? Did you know you wanted to be a teacher?
Who would
Mommy
you ask?
Mommy Walker was a teacher. Mom was a teacher. I'm a teacher, but I will tell you that I was encouraged to be a teacher or chose teaching as a fallback. You always needed a plan B. Mm. And I'm really grateful that I've been teaching, because when my corporate job was discontinued 12 years ago, it was teaching that I fell back on. And that, but I'm not a trained teacher. I'm not a trained academician. And unlike my mother, I do not have 2 master's degrees. I don't even have 1. So these sorts of things, I think, but again, the value of teaching, not only in terms of reaffirming what you know and getting delight and satisfaction from sharing that, but the ways in which my students have enriched me. And, that I've mentored and they've gone on, or that, even each class, when someone is saying like, oh, I read about this, or, oh, there's this new app, or that's how I keep up. That's important to me. Otherwise, I might just be, curled up in a little homebody ball somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere. And this remote teaching, all this Zooming, and, God, that's been really challenging. But I do it because I love it. But I think teaching, preaching, it's all about giving and sharing.
Yeah.
I think teaching involves perhaps more listening in return than preaching does. Bad preaching is a lot of like one way out. Here's the message, don't question it. Whereas I think good teaching is teaching critical thinking. And what can I do with this information? How can I manage that?
Yeah.
And I came from, Mom's an explorer. She's a lifelong learner. And I am too, to the point I can't show you half my living room that's filled with craft projects and paints, because I just keep dabbling. And mom's like, and even when I got paid for my first comedy gig, and she goes, well, now, Amy, this could lead to some real money. And I'm like, Mom, I know for a fact it won't, but thank you.
Well, that's not, I mean, a lot of parents don't say that. They're like, what are you doing?
Oh no, in fact, Mom gave me my first class at Second City as a birthday present.
Oh,
because she said, what would you like? I'm like, well, my friends are always saying I should do this. And so, hey, and she goes, okay. And she and my brother came up, see my thing. And yeah, so
That is
we
so
carried on. We carried on. But if you don't take risks, if you don't try things, I think you're depriving yourself of some adventure or insight or bridge building. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Definitely.
So I don't have a Secret Service file that I know
Right.
of.
There
I
are
probably have some final notice files in my my work history. It was like, Amy, what did you do? Well, I alienated a lot, but no, I mean, I think if there's one family word or one motto, if we were to get a family tattoo or on our crest, saying it would be tenacity.
Mm.
Would you agree, Mom?
Yeah, that's fine.
I know that's your.
I'll call that person back.
Oh.
Yeah. Would you agree that tenacity is a good family motto? Mom?
Would you repeat that?
Would you agree that tenacity has been a trend or a family motto?
I think so. And I know when I was retiring, I got this certificate, and it described my personality type as disobedient, adventuresome, hard to live with sometimes, but me loved myself, and other people loved her too.
Mm.
Yeah.
But I'm not big on taking for granted what anybody else says. I will just obey if I think it's really wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing to live by for sure. Sarah, how do you occupy your time now? Because you've lived such a full life. So what do you do now that you're retired?
I do things around the house, and I get bored because I had a car wreck and I can't drive a car anymore.
Oh,
And so, but I stay busy. I don't know. I just stay busy
Thank you, Rachel.
and
Matt,
wish I were.
those times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's very involved in different political campaigns and such, and actively trying to donate and again make changes that will bring greater equity and parity to situations. So again, we got, I think that certainly ran through the family as well. That's just like, that's how we think, that's how you act.
I think I can imagine the answer to this, but Amy, what are some positive ways that like your mother's mothering influenced the way you mother? Some things that you may have carried over.
Think about that. I think one of the things, an observation that Mom shared at some point, was when we were born, when she was new to parenting, and that time, the idea was kind of that your children were blank slates, and that they reflected everything you put into them. And so you had to be really careful about all of that sort of stuff, but that you had to make that child from scratch. And realizing, no, children are born with their own personalities, their own gifts. They're hardwired. They really are. I mean, so, and when I became a parent, I kind of, it, in some ways it relieves some pressure, but it creates a different kind of level of accountability for paying attention. What are those gifts? Who is this person that I gave birth to? I don't know them.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily going to be a carbon copy. There may be some traits that are inherited, but there are also other things that's them. That's them. And also, though, that bad behavior on my part, or toxic environments or things that can affect them negatively, and you have to be aware of that too. So I think just in terms of the realization that your children are not like a lump of clay waiting to be formed.
Yeah. That's
your children are their own people.
Yeah, I think that's a big lesson for a lot of people. That's a really good point. Because I've talked to mothers who are like, it's hard not to wish something for your kid so much that it becomes like a little overbearing, where it's like, oh, I want you to do this, and they're like, well, I'm not into that,
I know, and especially, I think sometimes you may want your child to do something or excel at something because it's an unrealized dream for you. Yeah. Not necessarily because of them. You're hoping they can cash in the coupon you never got to use for one reason or another. And, I just think of dancers and musicians and gymnasts and athletes everywhere who were pushed. Now, when I was 5, mother said, do you want to dance or do you want to play the piano? And I said, oh, I'll take dance. And mother said at that time, she was really relieved because then we would not have to buy a piano. But however many pianos worth of toe shoes and tutus and classes and camps later, oh my gosh, at least still have a piano. I've got,
Sarah, is it easier being a grandma than it is a mom, do you think?
I just have 3 grandchildren, and the problem is that I don't get to see them enough.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of their life. One lives in Chicago, Amy, and the other in Manhattan, and it's hard to see them. But what we do is FaceTime and Zoom and a variety of things to stay in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Grandmas are so
We
important.
we Zoom once a week.
Oh, perfect.
3 children, 3 grandchildren, and their mates. So it's good.
Yeah.
And I hate anything digital, but Zooming is wonderful. And so that makes me happy when we can Zoom and talk to one another.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice.
And all 3 children, when I was growing up, I was not close to my sister or my brother, nor they to each other. But my 3 children are very close to one another and will stand up for each other. And the difference is really amazing. And I'm not for sure why, but it's very different.
Is that something you hoped when you had kids? You're like, I want them to be close. Was that on your mind?
No, it didn't occur to me that they would be, because I hadn't been close to my siblings. But they really stick together, and they'll get on the phone with each other, and they'll do these oh, Amy, what do you call ponds? And it will just go on and on. And they're all very creative and they just like each other.
Oh,
But Amber, to answer one of your questions, I believe question number 7, in terms of what trials have you gone through, I would say that our parents' divorce and my father's subsequent untimely death, remarriage, and then death was certainly something that brought the 3 of us together, more so than we had. I mean, Hannah and Ben are just 2 years apart, but I was already 6 and 8 years old. I was already, da.
right.
But when something that tragic and stressful and life-changing happens, and there were just so many things that we had to navigate and negotiate that required we be a team. We all 3 of us had to act as a single unit to enforce this or protect that. And then of course, circle the wagons around mom,
Right.
and keep her safe and all that.
Wow.
So
I'm glad that worked out the way it did then.
yeah. I mean, I wish the circumstances had not occurred.
Yeah.
But if the silver lining is that stronger bonds were forged, then I think that's as positive an outcome as you can hope for.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah, what would be, I'm glad I get to get this from both of you. Sarah, what would be your mama says advice? Like if you could give one piece of advice to either mothers or children, what would it be?
Don't expect to be perfect. Don't blame yourself. Don't blame your children.
That's really nice. That's perfect. What about you, Amy?
I would say 2. Well, one is just stick with it. Just, maybe it is because you need to persevere. Maybe you just need to outlast your detractors. Just
Well
just
put.
hang in there. And the other thing that is just kind of a thing that I know I've heard my children banter about, and this has to do with mom's love of very precise language. Like when I would say something like, "Oh, I'm so anxious for that to happen," and she'd go, "No, you're not anxious, you're eager." Or I'd say, "Oh, mom, look at this dress I got. It was so cheap." She'd go, "No, not cheap, unless it's cheap. It's inexpensive." But so now, it's like, oh, okay. But and all other kinds. But the thing being that when we have good news to share, or we want fingers crossed, or we just need that motherly, you go kind of thing, she goes, "Okay, be confident, but not cocky." And we're like, "Okay." So 1, use the right word. 2, use the right attitude. So, but it's true. I think, and that has been like, "Okay, all right, I'm confident, not cocky, confident, not cocky."
That's perfect. That's wonderful. I have enjoyed meeting you, Sarah, and talking with you. You too. I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface of how amazing you two are. There was a lot of moments where you guys were like, "This is something, but we're not going to delve into it." Secret files and traveling. You both are just a gift to the world, and I'm so glad I get to know you.
Oh,
We're nearing
This has been a wonderful thing for me because I've heard Amy say things that I didn't realize were important, and I'm very grateful for it. So thank you.
1,000%.
thank you, Amber.
Yes. Before we leave each other, since this is stamped in time and we can have, you guys will have this forever. What would you like each other to know forever?
That I love you.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be who I am today without you. I might be happier. No, I get No, I am who I am. Because one, because I came hardwired. Two, because of life. But three, in terms of who I am as a parent, was really heavily influenced by you. And I appreciate that. All right, your turn, Mom. Say something nice.
I really enjoyed this. I couldn't figure out what it was going to be exactly. And what I'd like to do is to find out how you ever got started in this. But Amy can tell me that at another time. But I have enjoyed it, and there's nothing better than motherhood. And I can remember Amy being interviewed at times when she was involved with Marshall Fields and a little girl, and people would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And she said, "I want to be a mommy."
That was
has,
Emma that said that. That was
you
Emma.
don't remember saying that?
No, maybe I did though, but I know Emma did in a commercial when they were interviewing her, and they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" She goes, "I want to be an artist and a mommy." Like,
Yeah, the artist, yeah. That's true.
Totally unscripted.
Completely unscripted. Well, you both have been wonderful, and I appreciate you so much. Sarah, thank you for having children, because I love Amy so much. And Amy, thank you for being yourself.
Well, I've got two more. I've got a son and another daughter. So
there's more awesome people.
Someone
Audrey,
told me, a neighbor told me that I was blessed with abundance. And I have thought about that. I really have been blessed with an abundance of good things.
Yes, you have.
But you also fought really hard for a lot of them too. I think a lot of times if you say you've been blessed, it's like someone dropped, a winning lottery card on your doorstep, and that you lucked into it. But a lot of your abundance has come from very hard work and risk taking. And I would just don't you go thinking that those blessings just kind of came to you like manna from heaven. You went out and got them too. So, well, Amber, I look forward to being able to come to a club and see you. I've been thrilled and delighted to be able to follow you on YouTube and see all the stuff and oh, you're hilarious. Oh. Absolutely hilarious. And so every new release, every new Instagram post is a bright spot in my day. Oh. And I just want this year over.
Yes.
Really soon. So
thank you, Amy. I look forward to being on a lineup with you again and killing it on the stage.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mom. You did it.
You did it. You were wonderful.
Yes, it's been enriching for me to get to be involved like this.
I'm so
and no one cut off your electricity.
Very blessed.